Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On the program today, we'll head out to Sherman County and talk with Tim Franklin to get his take on how the wheat harvest has been in the northwestern corner of the state. And we'll also talk with Greg Krissek, who just returned from an all-important trip to China as he was there as the trade war began. We'll also have updates from the Kansas Soybean Commission and Kansas Department of Agriculture, as well as our weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and Paragon Ag Advisors. Stay with us. You're watching the Kansas Ag Report.
Closed captioning brought to you by Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Weed Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for weeds. Online at kswheat.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org.
Well, we were able to spend a few days with the Franklin family near Goodland out in Sherman County. And we got Tim off the combine to get his take on how things have been going during this year's wheat harvest.
Harvest has gone pretty good for us. We've just got a couple days left and we'll be wrapped up and we'll be moving on to the next thing.
Well, let's talk about recently, it wasn't more than a couple weeks ago, Mother Nature finally delivered a lot of rain, especially in western Kansas. But the other thing that happened, you all have experienced some hail.
Yes, we have. A couple weeks ago, we had 3 different nights of hail across Sherman County. And so that kind of cut our wheat harvest a little short and reduced the bushels that we were hoping to see as well.
Well, talk about that. I mean, it was been a very interesting year when the wheat went in, and most of the wheat out here is either in pivot circles or some of the dryland areas. Say even 60 days ago, did you think you even have a wheat crop?
We were pretty nervous about it 60 days ago. As dry as we were, we got a good rain right after we got the wheat in the ground and brought all the weeds and wheat at the same time and turned dry through most of the winter. And we were just kind of fortunate to have a wheat crop, and then that hailstorm came through, and I guess we're just fortunate to have anything left. So,
talk a little bit about your operation, how it works here. You have the Ogallala, you have some water for some of your acres, but talk about how the rotation works.
Yep, sure. So on our irrigated ground, we're mainly irrigated corn. Sometimes we'll have a little bit of wheat for rotation reasons, but mainly irrigated corn for there. And on dry land, we do a wheat corn fallow rotation, just trying to take care of the weed pressure and provide us a little bit more profit opportunity as well with the corn.
And also, as a young farmer, you grew up on the farm, worked in the corporate world, have come back. Talk about that experience, and now you've been back as one of the operators, really kind of full here the last few years.
Sure, that's right. So my wife and I moved back in 2011. So we came back when commodity prices were high, everyone's outlook was great. Everything was roses in the farm community, and obviously the last few years it's been a little bit different story, but fortunately we were able to get a few good years under our belt and see what the good times, and now we get to ride the cycle and see what the rougher times are like, and we're hanging on, we're making it through.
Farmers in northwest Kansas, many and in your county, have come together to really try to focus on conserving water. Can you talk about some of those situations?
Sure. We believe in conserving the Ogallala, my family in particular. We did a water conservation area, and we use moisture probes to help us monitor the water and schedule the irrigation events, as well as we've gone to a no-till practice on our irrigated corn after corn, and it provides a challenge getting the stands we'd like, but it allows us to conserve a lot of the moisture that way as well.
We all know it's difficult in the farm country right now. How's your level of optimism looking forward?
I think as a farmer, we're generally always optimistic. We have to be. The next cloud's going to bring the rain, and the next crop's going to be the one we're looking for. So I'm optimistic, and I think the future of ag is optimistic as well.
That's Tim Franklin from Sherman County. Stay with us. We'll join Greg Krissek with Kansas Corn when we come back on the Kansas Ag Report.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues, improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
We're joined now by Greg Krissek, who is the CEO of Kansas Corn. And Greg, you were one of a group that just returned from China. And in fact, you were over there as things really heated up when the trade war, this trade situation. What were your observations when you were there, the reaction you had?
You bet. We were there at a time when the actual tariffs were getting close to being put on. We had a chance while we were in Beijing to meet with Ambassador Branstad, and he brought probably 6 of his staff with him from every category of the trade agreements and relationships and what they're working on. And he was quite candid on what was coming with the situation with the tariffs. And as we talked about it, really appreciated him, saying, and after then spending another week and a half there, certainly see the long-term opportunity, but we have to get past this short-term dispute. Later, we had also briefings by some of our cooperators, like U.S. Meat Export Federation, U.S. Grains Council, and what became really obvious is with the tariffs, the Kansas and the U.S. Ag products will not be competitive as long as the tariffs are in place.
Talk about that meeting with Ambassador Branstad. I mean, former Iowa governor, really fully understands agriculture. As a farmer, should that make us feel good that he's over there representing our interest on the ground?
Ken, I couldn't think of a better person to be that ambassador right now. He does. He understands agriculture. He comes from a state that happens to have a lot of corn knowledge in it, corn and soy, and his understanding of the impacts back to rural America were strong. And when asked, we said, what do we bring back, and we talk about, he said, look, we are working to make this fair. Obviously there are a couple other industries where the U.S. administration has felt it's not been fair. But of anyone to understand how agriculture could be impacted by this trade war, that's Ambassador Branstad. Spending
2 weeks over there, what are some of your takeaways as far as you have a better understanding of what ultimately is or what number 1 or 2 market?
I assumed going there that I would feel or see more of this centrally planned economy, the communist, and certainly I think that's there, and they're doing a great amount of infrastructure investment from trains, bullet trains, ports, airplanes, and airports are expanding significantly. We can talk about the population size. But the thing which surprised me is really it is just like a market economy. I mean, they want to do business. When you get a chance to visit with people like us there, they want to do business with us because they like our product. They really like protein. The upper middle class and middle class is growing significantly, and they will improve their diets, and they want access to U.S. beef, pork, and poultry.
We're talking with Greg Krissek with Kansas Corn. We'll take a break and be back with more in just a moment.
This segment brought to you by Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source. agview.net.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues, improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source. agview.net. Greg Krissek, the CEO of Kansas Corn, joins us. We're talking about his recent trip to China. Greg, we talked about some of your experiences and some of the things you've seen, but this tariff situation will work its way out eventually. And so you then got to see maybe some opportunities in the future.
We were in 5 of the major cities, all of them at least 12 million, some of them as much as 20 million people. Continued effort by the government there to move the citizens from the rural areas. So some of those cities that were 12 million clearly said they're going to grow by another 12 million in the next 10 years. You saw lots of construction. So becoming an urbanized society. And as I saw the urbanized society, I saw them wanting improved diets, which would include more protein. I also saw them driving vehicles, although it's some crazy prices to get your car licensed, like in Shanghai. It's $15,000 for registration. It's amazing. And there is air pollution, significant air pollution that will provide an opportunity for ethanol blends. The government has said by 2020 they want E10 throughout the country. If they accomplish that, that's 5 billion gallons of ethanol. And they cannot domestically produce that. They will have to import that, and the U.S. has the lowest cost ethanol in the world. So we have that opportunity to help them on the food front with the grains and the protein as beef or pork exported from the U.S., and also then the ethanol for the growing consumption of their gasoline blends.
So it's simply, hopefully, a matter of time, and the saber-rattling stops, agreements can be reached, and it's an opportunity because really both nations need each other.
Really, really do. And the lifestyle that I see them aspiring to and implementing, let's not forget, China's a country that's existed for 2,500 years. They've done quite a bit and learned quite a bit along the way. And I think their population, their young urban professionals, again, lifestyles just like we see here in the U.S., that's what they want, and they'll want the diets and the mobility of the cars to go with it. All
right, Greg. Well, fascinating, always great to bring back more experiences from seeing especially a place as important as China is to the ag economy. So thanks for sharing your thoughts.
You bet. I'm glad to be here.
Greg Krissek, who is the CEO of Kansas Corn, has joined us. Stay with us. We'll have more coming up. You're watching the Kansas Ag Report.
Spring is sprung, and Premier Farm and Home has what you need to keep your yard crabgrass free throughout the season. With a complete line of pre-emergents, you can stop crabgrass before it starts. Premier Farm and Home, 900 Southwest University Boulevard, or find them on the web at heycow.com.
Farming must evolve to meet changing customer needs. U.S. soybean farmers are at the forefront of that evolution as they adopt innovative farming practices to grow a more sustainable crop. According to the 2016 Field to Market National Indicators Report, which measures agriculture's sustainability performance, U.S. soybean farmers produced significantly more with far fewer resources from 1985 to 2015 due to new technologies and better agronomic practices. Soybean production increased 120% during that period, while land use per bushel declined 40%. Water used for irrigation dropped 32%, energy use declined by 35%, and greenhouse gas emissions declined by 38%. Technology for sustainable soybean production can cover several practices, from drip irrigation systems to precision agriculture. Those tools also can boost yields. U.S. soybean farmers use many different technologies to produce a top quality crop. Sustainability can benefit all members of the soybean supply chain, and being open to new technologies and programs will help to differentiate U.S. soybeans. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org/sustainability on the web.
Kansas farmers and ranchers know there is great beauty in agriculture, and photographers are encouraged to capture that beauty and share it with others through the Kansas Department of Agriculture's annual photo contest. I'm Heather Lansdowne, Director of Communications for the Kansas Department of Agriculture. Entries for the photo contest are being accepted from now through August 31st. This year's KDA photo contest categories were selected to promote different aspects of Kansas agriculture. Agriculture in the fields, agriculture in town, animals of agriculture, water and agriculture, and county fair are the categories that will showcase the many places and ways we experience agriculture across the state of Kansas, from the crops in the fields to the animals on the ranches, and from the farmers markets and agribusinesses and communities across the state to the critical role water plays in Kansas agriculture. And for the first time, we have a category to capture the magic of the county fair. In addition, there's a separate youth division for young photographers age 19 and under. Prizes will be awarded to the top 2 winners in each of the 6 categories. In mid-September, all the entries will be posted on KDA's social media sites to be voted upon. Winners of the KDA photo contest will be chosen by votes on social media platforms and by leaders in Kansas agriculture and members of the Kansas legislature. Winners in each category will receive prizes, and a few of the top photographs will be selected to be displayed in the KDA building here in Manhattan. Guidelines for the contest can be found at agriculture.ks.gov/photo contest. Photos which best capture the categories will be used by KDA throughout the year as we tell the story of Kansas agriculture.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device, news and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here. The time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source. agview.net.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
One of the new laws that went into effect in Kansas July 1st deals with how noxious weeds are designated. A bill approved by the 2018 Kansas legislature and signed into law by the governor authorizes the Kansas Secretary of Agriculture to designate a noxious weed by the adoption of a regulation. The designation must be approved by the new 13-member Noxious Weed Advisory Committee, which is composed of individuals from both the public and private sector, and specifies the inclusion of farmers, ranchers, and landowners. Previously, a noxious weed only could be designated through passage of a bill by the entire legislature. Under the new law, the state ag secretary can make an emergency noxious weed declaration, but it cannot be permanent until approved by the advisory committee. Another provision authorizes any board of county commissioners in Kansas, with approval from the ag secretary, to publish a list of noxious weeds within a specific county. In addition, the new law requires all forage, straw, or mulch used on state lands to be certified weed-free. Kansas Livestock Association members support the legislation because it provides a more scientific and expeditious means for designating noxious weeds at the state and county levels. KLA advocated for noxious weed reform legislation during the 4 previous legislative sessions prior to passage of the bill that became law July 1st.
Good morning. I'm Derek Hermish with Paragon Ag. What now? With crop prices taking a nosedive in the month of June, that's the question on a lot of farmers' minds. Here in the state of Kansas, it's especially frustrating as fall crops are looking at potential production that ranges from average at best to reminiscent of 2012 at worst. Trade wars mixed with localized dry hot weather are not what the doctor ordered. Is there a silver lining? Maybe silver is shooting too high in this case, but how about a bronze lining? Basis improvement. There has been a monster improvement in wheat basis, which has come partly at the hands of a much greater protein quality crop, 3 to 4 points higher than last year in a lot of places. Couple that with a shorter crop and an everlasting carry situation in the market, you have a recipe for competition from commercials and end users alike to try to gain ownership of this year's wheat crop. That takes some of the sting out. Corn basis has improved as well, although much spottier with varying degrees depending on your location. Moving forward, there may be more basis improvement for corn, depending on the severity of crop loss in an area versus the demand profile, whether it's ethanol or livestock related. Now, it's never a good idea to make marketing decisions based on looking out your back door. And here in Kansas, you could attest to that. But it isn't a bad idea to drive around and keep tabs on your neighborhood if you're looking to make a basis decision. I'm Derek Hermish. Have a good day.
Well, thank you for joining us this week. Be sure to be social with us online at kansasagreport.net or on social media, Facebook and Twitter. Next week, Greg will stop by again. We'll talk about what we're going to do with all this corn, and Beth Gaines with Kansas FFA Foundation. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on the Kansas Ag Report. Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
Closed captioning brought to you by
The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. KansasSoybeans.org.
Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org.
Spring is sprung, and Premier Farm and Home has what you need to keep your yard crabgrass free throughout the season. With a complete line of pre-emergents, you can stop crabgrass before it starts. Premier Farm and Home, 900 Southwest University Boulevard, or find them on the web at heycow.com.
What if U.S. soybean oil were an industry sensation? If end users started asking for it by name? That future is here. The time is now. To meet customer demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in varieties that produce oil with increased functionality. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.